Hello, welcome back to So Let's Talk About It. I'm Kayla, the owner of Serge Fabric Shop, and this is just a weekly podcast where I share a little bit about what I've been sewing, what I've been working on, and I answer some of your questions. So let's start with what I'm wearing. You've seen this featured in the first two videos. This is my Season of Growth Sew Along project. It's the Paradise Patterns Rose Raglan made with our Parkville linen cotton. And I finished up that collar, the cuffs, the hem, the buttons, and it turned out beautiful. This is my first button-up shirt that has sleeves that are long enough. It feels like I've unlocked a whole new level. If you're a tall girl, you probably experience this all the time. And being able to create our own clothes is one of the most magical things, and it just boosts confidence. So I have it paired with a hand knit shawl today because my sewing room is freezing. This I don't know if you want to know about my knitting, but I'm also an avid knitter, so I'll just share it if I'm wearing it. This is the sugar shawl from Lamb Kid, and yeah, so that's all I've managed to get done this past week since the last video. I did cut out a new project though. After a more detailed sew like this button up, I like a little quick palette cleanser, like a quick win. And so I grabbed some of our new Selenic, uh, what what did I call it? It's the cable jacquard sweater knit, and it's just really fun texture. And I found this little piece of rib knit that I had used on another project quite a while ago. It pairs pretty well with this, so I'm going to make a simple t-shirt. I just think it would be fun and a little bit different from my norm. Elevated basic. So that's what I will be using. This is our Vayroy rib knit in sand, and this is the oatmeal Selenic cable jacquard sweater knit. Other project I cut out is with fabric from our friend's shop, Fluid Plus Drape, Bethany over there. She's a lovely gal, and I enjoy seeing the magic she creates. And when I saw this quilted fabric, I just really wanted to pick some up. I've been wanting to make a quilt coat for quite some time, so I opted to use the oh, what is it? It's the Rue quilt coat. Oh, it's all over the place on Instagram right now. I can't remember the designer right now. I'll just link it in the caption, but that's going to be the main print. And I've had this beautiful quilting cotton that I picked up locally that I'm going to use for the binding. And this project, it does kind of fit into the Season of Growth Sew Along because I have never made my own bias tape. That seems kind of crazy considering how long I've been sewing, but this is a first. So I'm excited to start working on this. I'm making it through some of those steps. I haven't decided if I'm going to add ties or buttons yet. I'll figure that out later. Let's dive into answering some of your questions this week. Our first one is, do you have a good recommendation or resources for beginners who want to start sewing knits? I feel like there's a huge learning curve to jump in from wovens to knits. I don't want to commit to a serger just yet, so I've been doing everything on my domestic machine, but I'm struggling to get seams that look nice. I tried to use a twin needle too, so maybe I took on too much at once. Okay, so sewing with knits on a domestic sewing machine, it is trickier than with a serger. From my experience, I started sewing with a very basic Brother machine, and it would just eat knit fabrics. It would just pull it in down underneath the feed dogs and get really knotted up and tangled, and I'd have to fight my machine to take it back out. A walking foot is an absolute necessity for sewing with knit fabrics. Without a walking foot, the fabric won't feed evenly underneath the presser foot, And so you'll end up with like warped seams. Now, if your fabric is getting pulled underneath the feed dogs, like I just mentioned, happened to me, what you can do is grab some tissue paper and set that underneath the fabric with a little bit coming out behind the fabric. So that way, when you start sewing, there's that tissue paper to help stabilize the fabric and kind of help more evenly feed that through. And then after you sew that seam, you just tear it off and the rest, any little bits that are left behind, will wash out. As for resources that you can refer to help with hemming and um, sewing those seams, Seamwork, they're a pattern company. They make so much great content around this. I'll link a couple options in the caption below. Ultimately, I think it comes down to what sewing machine you have and how well it can actually handle knits. Then from there, you can decide on if you want to continue powering through with your domestic sewing machine or maybe investing in a serger. Maybe you can find one secondhand on Marketplace or in the thrift stores. I always love shopping secondhand first before buying something new. So that's what I would consider if you really are committed to sewing with knits and creating garments that you're going to love and cherish for years. Okay, next question. Learning to sew for myself and need a cheat sheet for all the different knit fabric types. I can't keep up with the abbreviations and names and descriptions and weights and amounts of stretch. Also, what's a good way to label your fabric in your stash with the details? Feeling a little overwhelmed. I understand it's a lot to learn all at once when you're entering this new sewing world, but don't let all the different types, everything, flood you with that feeling of overwhelm in the beginning. It's going to be a learning process. You'll get there in time. Take it one fabric, one project at a time. I feel like on our blog, we actually have an activewear fabric guide. Oh, yes, that's what it is. So on our blog, we have a guide to sewing with activewear fabric, or a guide to activewear fabrics. And while this is, activewear fabric centered, I feel like maybe we could put something together along the lines like that. If that would be helpful, just let me know some of the abbreviations and names that you're struggling with. I can think of some off the top of my head, like DBP, double brush poly, or RSJ, rayon spandex jersey, things like that. But let me know if there's more that you would like us to cover and compile a quick guide for. We can do that. What's a good way to label your fabric in your stash? There is fabric ID tape that Kylie and the Machine created. I haven't been able to reorder it. I'm in the process of trying to do that. So I would recommend using that because she has thought out all of the details like fabric weight, width, content, all the details. Maybe I think there's even like a little note section on there where you can include what you were planning to make or some other thoughts you had. So I really like that tape for labeling your fabrics. Um, so that's what I would suggest locating and picking up a roll of. It's going to help you keep everything very organized, and help you remember what it was later on. Okay, next question. I'm getting better at it, but a discussion of fabric weight and print scale could be helpful. I've made a few epic fails from these two fabric features. One, a jumpsuit that looked like I was wearing a huge floral 80s wallpaper, and then two cowl necklines that were clunky and not drapey. Okay, so let's talk about prints. This is hard because we all have different preferences. Some folks might love a big floral print. Some might like a smaller, more condensed, scattered all over type floral print. So this is going to be How well do you know yourself? And the best way to find that out is through making mistakes like this and learning as you go. But also, you could go into the department store and try on different floral prints and get an idea of what styles you like. Like, do you prefer a ditzy floral where they're very tiny and all over the fabric? Or do you prefer a larger print that is more scattered and there's more background, solid color to break up that floral design? So, this is going to be more of a matter of determining what exactly you like, what you prefer to wear, what do you feel good in, what do you feel beautiful in, and not like a wallpaper. Like, and again, that's going to depend on the garment. So if you're making a t-shirt, maybe your preference is for a ditzy floral. But if you are making a full floor length dress, a ditzy floral might feel overwhelming and take away from the whole style and the cut of the dress. So it's also going to depend based on the garment. So being mindful of what you prefer and what you feel good in is going to help you really guide your fabric choices for these sorts of projects. I'll say for a jumpsuit, that is a lot of fabric, and depending on your height, if you're tall, that's going to be a lot of flowers if you're opting for an all over floral print. I think for a project like that, you're probably going to want more background, solid color to break up that floral design and move away from the wallpaper vibe to chic and elegant. Now, as for the other part of your question, fabric weight, this might be part of the problem for the cowl neck that were clunky and not drapey, but another thing could be fiber content. Different fibers drape differently. So you could have 180 GSM, 100% cotton jersey that drapes differently than a 180 GSM rayon spandex. So this is going to be a matter of knowing your fibers and also understanding weight. For a cowl neck top, I would probably stick to around 180 GSM. That is going to really let that fabric hang beautifully without there being too much structure created from the weight of the fabric. And I would probably opt for a rayon or modal blend because that's going to just have a softer drape than a cotton would. So that's definitely something to be mindful of when you're selecting fabric for the project. Fabric types are also going to play a role in this. If it's a double knit, it's going to be a little bit more structured. If it's a scuba knit, there's a lot of structure in scuba knits. If you're looking at a French terry, then it's going to be a matter of the blend. Is there cotton in it that's going to create more structure in that fabric, and it's not going to hang quite like a bamboo or modal French terry blend would. So there's a lot of factors that go into fabric choice. If you're unsure about what fabric to use for a pattern, definitely look over the recommended fabrics for the pattern, because a lot of times they'll give specific blends, they'll give specific fabric types, and that can really help guide you in making the right fabric choice for the pattern. Or maybe you want to go a little rogue. You could always, drape the fabric over your body and see if that is draping in the way that you like. Going back to the print size and scale, a lot of times if I'm a little on the fence or a little unsure if I'm going to like the print scale for my intended project, I'll drape the fabric over my shoulder and just kind of move around and get a feel for how a dress would look in that fabric. Or maybe if I wanted a top, I would, cut it off at the waist and just look in the mirror and like get a feel for how that finished garment is going to look. It's hard to know until you complete the garment and try it on, but little things like that can help give you an idea of what the finished garment is going to look like on you without actually having to go through the process of creating it and using the fabric for that. All right, the last question is, Would love to know how you started your shop. What would you do differently today? Okay, so we started, I actually did a post on Instagram the other day for 2016 because that seems to be all trending right now. But 2016 is actually the year that I opened up Search Fabric Shop. It was in December, and I started the fabric shop in the basement of our townhome. We started with 15 fabrics. Our kids were always there, always present, and we just learned every step of the way. There was no guide on how to start a small business that I could read and just know it all. It was very much learn as we go. It was very challenging, very exhausting, and sometimes it still is. But it's also rewarding too. As for what I would do differently, honestly, I don't know if there's anything I could really pinpoint as, oh, I wish I hadn't done that, or I wish I'd done something completely different. Like, I think maybe I probably would have trusted myself sooner. Like, I was making good choices, I just was second guessing everything. And I think maybe if I led with more confidence, then maybe my business would be in a different stage right now. But I, considering thing that was thrown in our path, I think we've navigated that relatively well and have made it to this beautiful place in business where we can still be present with our kids and provide excellent quality fabrics and great customer service. I'm learning to just enjoy the process and the journey of this. When you're starting something new, you don't really know where it's going to take you, and you kind of are just along for the ride. And I think that's definitely been the case for me, my family, and this business. And yeah, I'm excited to see what the next 10 years brings. Okay, that's all we have for today. Thank you for tuning in and watching. I hope you have a wonderful weekend and find some time to sew. If you have any questions about fabrics or patterns, please don't hesitate to ask me. I'd love to help you with whatever it is that is challenging you right now. Have a great weekend. See you next week.